Toyota is the largest automaker in the world by sales volume, and here in the US, they take that to heart with a very large lineup. Now, in the crossover and SUV side of things, automotive journalists have defined 5 categories: subcompact, compact, 2-row midsize, 3-row midsize, and full-size SUVs. But Toyota offers 9 products in the crossover SUV space, so there's obviously going to be some overlap, and it's really in the mid-size category that Toyota has so many offerings. This is an all-new crossover from Toyota, the 2025 Crown Signia. It replaces the Venza, slightly above Toyota RAV4 in size and luxury, and slightly below the Toyota Highlander. Except since this vehicle is only offered in XLE and limited trim levels, its starting price is actually above that of Toyota Highlander. It's a very premium offering from Toyota, almost Lexus-like, and it also has to compete with other 2-row midsize SUVs that Toyota sells, the 4Runner and the Land Cruiser. So there's a lot going on in Toyota's crossover lineup, and where this Toyota Crown Signia fits is definitely a question that needs to be asked. So today, let's find out and see what this all-new crossover from Toyota is all about. If you're in the process of looking for a new car to buy or lease, I can help. I can curate a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Visit drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find a new car. All right, as we try to identify this Crown Signia, let's start with its size. So the car is 13 inches longer than RAV4, 1 inch wider, and 3 inches shorter height-wise than the RAV4. So yeah, it's a bit bigger on the outside, although on the inside it's actually a little smaller. You get 10 cubic feet less cargo capacity than in the Toyota RAV4 and about ½ an inch less rear seat legroom. So you're gonna get a little more of a practical vehicle with the RAV4, and that's a lot to do with the shape of that car. That is a tall, boxy vehicle that you can really just use practically, and Toyota has really packaged it in terms of efficiency. This again is a little more luxury oriented, and just looking at the shape of it, it definitely reminds me more of something like a Subaru Outback. It's a bit wagony, kind of just a lifted wagon, in the same way that the Toyota Crown sedan is really just a lifted sedan. This, as the SUV version of the Toyota Crown, is kind of just a lifted wagon, which I kind of like. I do like the proportions of this car. And in a way, as Toyota does own 20% of Subaru, and the new Subaru Outback is rumored to be a lot more SUV-like, this could kind of be the spiritual successor to the wagon proportions of the Subaru Outback. Now let's get into price. So this vehicle, as I mentioned, is a little more expensive than the base price of the Highlander. It starts at right around $43,000. That is also more than the base price of the new 4Runner, which is $40,000. Although it's less expensive than the base price of the 4Runner with the iForce Max hybrid powertrain, as that's $51,000. It's also right around the base price of the Toyota Grand Highlander, which is their large 3-row midsize SUV. Pretty interesting, and it's slightly more expensive than the base price of the BZ4X, which is Toyota's electric crossover. So there are so many competing Toyota offerings in this segment. It's quite confusing. Obviously, 4Runner is going to be your rugged offering at this price point. BZ4X is your electric offering. Grand Highlander is your practical offering. Highlander is your slightly less practical, but still pretty practical and a little less expensive offering. And then you have this Crown Signia, which is less practical, but it's definitely an urban setup. This gets really good fuel economy. That is its big plus. This gets 38 mpg combined, 37 on the freeway, 39 in the city, and paired with a 14.5 gallon fuel tank, you're looking at a 550-mile range, which I think is one of this car's biggest selling points. You really just don't have to go to the gas station all that often. It's very practical, and this car is very comfortable. It is a comfort-oriented 2-row midsize SUV. Toyota is definitely bleeding into the Lexus space with this car. I personally, my take on this Crown Signia is I wish they had just called it a Venza. The first generation Venza also had similar wagon-like proportions to this vehicle. The second generation Venza wasn't really that. It was just a rebadged version of a vehicle sold in other markets. But now that they've come back to this style of car for their urban 2-row midsize SUV, I wish they had called it the Venza. Crown Signia is a bit of a complicated name, and it gets more complicated when we start to talk about the badging. And that's because, as I mentioned mentioned, Toyota does sell a vehicle called the Toyota Crown. It kind of acted as the replacement for the Avalon. In this modern age of everything needing to be a crossover SUV, it is kind of a lifted, taller sedan. But you would be forgiven if you thought that this vehicle was the Toyota Crown, because that's all it says, Toyota Crown. There are no Signia badges on this vehicle. I'm kind of confused why Toyota marketed it like this. Obviously, they're trying to build their Crown sub-brand. Think of it like GMC's Denali. GMC has lately been putting Denali front and center on the back of its Denali models in order to really build that brand, because that is a big reason people are going to GMC for the luxury arm Denali. Obviously, Denali is a trim level, whereas Crown is like a model subset. It's still very interesting to see how Toyota has marketed this vehicle. No one's going to know that this is a Crown Signia, or really what the difference is between this Toyota Crown and then the Toyota Crown that is obviously not this vehicle but a sedan. A little confusing. We'll see how that marketing plays out as time goes on. But we can also see around back the design of this rear end. I think it's pretty elegant. I like the full length light bar around back. I really like the big third brake light too. Pretty elegant. I'm not a fan of the reverse light being low and in the center of the car. I feel like there's plenty of space to have put it up closer to the rest of the lighting elements. We can also see that it's a hybrid. Crown Signia is a standard hybrid and standard all-wheel drive as well. And then that this is the limited trim level. Again, you can only get limited or XLE. It's a 2 trim level offering for Crown Signia. And I also was just thinking that this rear end kind of looks familiar, and especially in the shot, the way I have it cropped right now. It was reminding me of another car, and I realized in this moment, it reminds me of the Porsche Panamera Sport Turismo. So that's a big compliment for this Crown Signia. But for me, it is up front that is my favorite element of this exterior design. I really like this body color grille. I feel like for so long, cars have all had the same design elements where the grille is either chrome or black or just separate from the rest of the body of the vehicle. And I think with the EV revolution and EVs obviously not having grilles, auto designers are now playing around with the fact that a grille doesn't necessarily have to be different from the rest of the body of the car. And obviously this is not an electric vehicle, but I really do like how it blends seamlessly into the rest of the car. I think Toyota did a great job with that. And I do also like how the headlights kind of swoop around and cut into the hood. All right, but let's pop open the hood to take a look at this car's engine. This is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder hybrid system that makes 240 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Again, it should return about 38 mpg combined. And we'll get into the driving dynamics of this car later, but I find that this is plenty adequate for the size of this Crown Signia. And in a lot of ways, I actually prefer this hybrid setup to Toyota's more premium hybrid setup that they put in their larger vehicles or their more upscale vehicles. That 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder hybrid, the iForce Max or Hybrid Max, depending on the vehicle it's in. You can get that in 4Runner, Land Cruiser, Grand Highlander, and even the Toyota Crown, so the sedan version of this vehicle. I find that engine very coursed, and it feels very strained to be producing such high horsepower and torque figures that Toyota has tuned it to. It's like 320 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque in those ballparks. A 4-cylinder, I don't think naturally, obviously doesn't produce that amount of power, and so it feels coarse and strained, and like it really has to work hard in order to move the car off the line. This doesn't necessarily feel that way. It's definitely not very powerful, and with its CVT, you definitely hear it groaning away under the engine when you request a lot of power, but most of the time, you don't really notice it. It actually, I think, is a smoother engine than that other Toyota engine that is on those larger vehicles, and I am not peeved about this engine at all. And again, 38 mpg is pretty good. All right, but climbing into the back of the Toyota Crown Signia, we can take a look at just how spacious this backseat area is in this 2-row midsize crossover that's actually smaller than Toyota's compact offering. So a couple of weeks ago, I actually was driving the Mazda CX-50 Hybrid, Mazda's new hybrid offering in the compact crossover segment. And obviously, I don't think these two vehicles are direct competitors, but I do think people are going to cross-shop them as they are kind of premium hybrid crossover offerings in the mainstream space. And this back seat definitely feels a bit more roomy than the back seat of that CX-50. I definitely have more knee room, foot room, and even headroom than I did in the back of that car, even though this also has a panoramic sunroof like that CX-50 did. This might not be as spacious as the backseat of a Toyota RAV4, but I am still very comfortable back here. I can lower the center armrest to reveal a pair of cup holders. I love this two-tone leather that we get, the brown and the black. We have heated outboard seats in the back of this Crown Signia Limited, dual USB-C charging outlets, air vents, no third zone automatic climate control, but that's all right. There are air vents, and 2 map pockets. So yeah, pretty comfortable and spacious here in the back of the Crown Signia. All right, but it is up front that I really think the ethos of Crown Signia comes through versus Toyota's other mid-sized crossovers and SUVs. You know, vehicles like the 4Runner and the Land Cruiser, they are very versatile. They are very off-road capable and rugged. That is what Toyota is going for in the design of those, and that comes through. There's very blocky, very angular. Vehicles like the Toyota Grand Highlander are supposed to be very useful, utilitarian, and it's definitely lots of storage spaces, cubby holes, and things like that in the interior of a Grand Highlander. This, up front, we can see, okay, this is more of a luxury-oriented vehicle than those other offerings. We have pretty elegant design language in here, the swooping brown leather that comes up on the dash. They've even borrowed Lexus's cool double-hinged center console that opens from both directions. I could play around with this all day. Cool to see that in this Toyota Crown Signia. And it's, again, just a pretty elegant design while still being very useful. A lot of OEMs have gone to using screens in order to make a car appear more elegant and modern and luxurious. I don't think that that's the case. I really do like that we have a full array of physical climate controls below this pretty large and nice infotainment system that does do full screen CarPlay. And we have a very large digital instrument cluster that's also crisp, clear, easy to see. You can use your digital rear view mirror because it is quite a long vehicle to look back through, although you can disable that by just lowering this little tab. Again, a panoramic sunroof. This leather is very nice to look at, and I like the contrast piping you get on it too. And most of all, these seats are very comfortable. We have 4-way adjustable lumbar support. The ride is very comfortable, which we'll get into in a minute, and it's very quiet in here. The overall driving experience is definitely a premium one, and that's aided by this interior. This vehicle is $52,000. It needs to be nice in here, and it definitely is. I'm very impressed by what Toyota has done with this interior. I honestly feel like they have successfully bridged the gap between Toyota and Lexus. That is what they're trying to do with this vehicle. They're trying to be, you know, like General Motors Buick, bridging the gap between Chevy and Cadillac. That is what they're attempting to do with Crown, and I kind of feel like they've done it. It's very nice in here. All right, driving the 2025 Toyota Crown Signia. Now, this is no sports car, nor is it trying to be. When you put your foot down, you do have to wait a little bit to get up to speed. I would not call this underpowered. I think it is perfectly adequate. And one thing I actually appreciate about this powertrain is it's not too coarse. You don't really notice it unless you are putting your foot to the floor. And then, yeah, you can hear this hybrid powertrain and notice again that there is a CVT transmission. It just hangs on to the high RPMs. But that's kind of okay for the ethos of this car. If you're driving around town, you're going to be using a lot of the electrical assist that these electric motors produce in order to produce all the power you need to pull off the line. And so that does add to the luxury ethos of this vehicle. Another thing that adds to the luxury ethos of this vehicle is how quiet it is in here. I'm driving 63 miles an hour, and it's pretty quiet in this cabin. Really the loudest thing, the most noise-making thing that comes into the cabin is the engine when you do put your foot to the floor. But I think this car kind of supports a more casual driving dynamic. Anyways, it doesn't really want to be pushed hard. It is such a comfortable, luxury-oriented car that you just kind of like get up to speed. It'll get there when you get there, and it will get there. You don't have to worry about that. But it is comfortable as you do so. These seats are very comfortable. The suspension is also very floaty. When you go over a bump, the car like bounces a little bit to recoil, to recover the impact of the bump, to make it a lot smoother. This is definitely a really good riding Toyota better than something like a Highlander, like a RAV4. This is more premium in that sense. Also quieter in here, you notice that. And the steering, it's fine. Again, more comfort oriented, not all that direct. But that's not what this car is about. This is an urban commuter around town, but also on the freeway. Like, you can do it all in this Crown Signia. It's such a good vehicle to just get in and drive. I've put 150-ish miles on this car in the week that I've had with it. I still have 363 miles of range left on this gas tank, which is awesome. And it's just been so easy to get in and go. It's comfortable, good speakers. Again, the seats are comfortable. And it's just all around a really great car. It has Toyota's full suite of safety features: automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, all of that stuff. And it's just sophisticated. It really does feel just a little bit more upscale than Toyota's other offerings in the crossover and SUV segment. And so if you're looking for a premium crossover, but you don't necessarily want or need a Lexus, well, this Crown Signia is definitely a really good option. So that's the 2025 Toyota Crown Signia. Now, when you try to understand this vehicle in the context of Toyota's overlapping SUV lineup, it can get very confusing, and this car doesn't really make a lot of sense. But when you take a step back from that and just simply analyze this car for what it is, well, you realize it is a great package. It's beautiful. It has an excellent interior, lots of tech, great efficiency and range, and a really comfortable driving experience. I am a big fan of this Crown Signia, and I didn't really expect to be going into the week I've driven this vehicle. It is, without a doubt, a desirable car. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.